The rain wasn't just falling, it was attacking the city, a relentless, cold assault that turned streets into rivers and sidewalks into traps. From the tiny window of my studio apartment, I watched it sheet down, mirroring the dread pooling in my stomach. The final notice from Crestview Medical, a crisp, unforgiving rectangle of paper, lay on the coffee table beside a disconnected internet router and my silent phone. The rent was due in 3 days. My job at the call center had evaporated a month ago, and the gig economy had gigged me right into a corner. I was Liam Carter, 24, drowning in silence and debt. When my phone finally buzzed, it was a vibration of desperation, not hope. It was from an unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it, but solitude had made me reckless. Liam? A smooth, baritone voice asked. Marshall Cole. We have a mutual friend. Ben from the gym. He said you're a stand-up guy in a tight spot. Ben. I'd spotted for him a few times. We weren't close. Maybe, I said, my voice rusty from disuse. I have a proposition. A single job. 1 night's work. It pays $5,000 cash. The number hung in the air, a life raft in the downpour. $5,000 would clear the medical bill, cover rent, buy me time to breathe. It was too good to be true, which meant it definitely was. What's the job? I asked, the question feeling like a step off a cliff. A retrieval, Marshall said. A simple in and out. A client's valuable property was taken by a disgruntled associate. We know where it is. We need someone with no connections, a clean face. You go in, you get the item, you leave. No confrontation. It's in a private study in a suburban house. The family will be at a school play until 10 p.m. Burglary. He was describing burglary, a felony. The words screamed in my head, but then my eyes drifted back to the medical notice, the sum printed in bold, $4,327.18. The phantom ache in my own chest, a reminder of the panic attack that had landed me in the ER, throbbed in time with my heartbeat. I thought of my landlord's impatient knocks, the silence of my empty fridge. I don't know, I stammered. 5,000, Liam. Tax-free. In your hand by midnight tomorrow. Think of it as a reset button. His voice was calm, persuasive, devoid of threat. It was just business. Meet me at the old Miller Point Lighthouse, 8 p.m. tonight. Just to talk. No obligations. He hung up. I spent the next 6 hours in a war with myself. Fear, morality, and sheer, desperate need clashed in a dizzying loop. By 7:30, as the gloomy twilight deepened, the need had won. It wasn't a victory, it was a surrender. I really needed the money, so I agreed to it. Not out loud yet, but my feet were moving, pulling on a dark hoodie, stepping out into the corrosive rain. The Miller Point Lighthouse was a skeletal relic, its light long dead. The parking lot was empty except for a sleek, black SUV. As I approached, the passenger window slid down soundlessly. Marshall Cole was in his 40s, with a sharp, intelligent face, close-cropped hair, and eyes that assessed me in a single glance. He wore a designer raincoat. He looked like a lawyer or a financier, not a criminal. Get in, Liam. Let's get out of this weather. The interior smelled of leather and clean, expensive cologne. He didn't handshake. The item is a solid-state drive, he began, pulling out a tablet. Silver, about the size of a credit card. It's in the top right drawer of a walnut desk in a home at 2147 Willow Lane in Oak Ridge Estates. Here's the layout. He showed me flawless digital blueprints. The security system is a standard Sentinel model. You will have this. He handed me a small, black device. Plug it into the wall outlet beside the control panel in the laundry room. It will create a 30-minute loop on the cameras and disable the contact sensors on the study window, which is your entry point. You have 17 minutes from entry to retrieval to exit. In and out. He made it sound like a logistics puzzle. What's on the drive? I asked, my throat tight. That's not your concern. Your concern is the $5,000 waiting for you upon its delivery. His gaze was steady. The family, the Millers, have 2 children. Emily, 12, and Josh, 8. They will be at Josh's school play, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. It ends at 9:45. The drive is not in their living area. You will not see them. You will not interact with anyone. He knew the kids' names. It was a detail meant to reassure, but it chilled me. This was so planned, so clinical. Why me? Because you have no record. You have a believable face. And you need the money. Needy people are focused people. They follow instructions. He said it without cruelty. It was a simple equation. Do we have an agreement? I looked out at the rain-lashed lighthouse, a monument to forsaken guidance. I saw the medical bill, the disconnected internet, the empty cupboard. I swallowed, the sound loud in the quiet car. Yes, good. He handed me a cheap, Burn phone. This has one number, mine. Use it only for tonight. Tomorrow, it will be dead. Be at Willow Lane at 8:45 p.m. precisely. Text me when you have the drive. I'll be nearby. Any deviation, and the deal is off. Understood? I nodded, the device feeling like a lead weight in my hand. The next 24 hours were a blur of anxious paralysis. I cleaned my already clean apartment. I tried to eat. I watched the clock tick with a metronomic slowness. When evening came, I dressed in dark, nondescript clothing, my heart a frantic bird in a cage of ribs. I took the bus to the edge of Oak Ridge Estates, my stomach churning. Willow Lane was a picture of suburban tranquility. Neat lawns, two-story colonials, the scent of fresh-cut grass still lingering from earlier. Number 2147 was charming, with a wraparound porch and a basketball hoop over the garage. A minivan was in the driveway. The house was dark, save for a single porch light. It looked like a home, a real home. My watch read 8:44. The plan was in motion. I felt a terrifying detachment, as if I were watching someone else move through the damp night. I slipped down the side yard, found the laundry room window just as the blueprint showed. The little black device plugged in with a soft click. A tiny green LED glowed. According to Marshall, I was now a ghost. The study window slid open without a sound. I hoisted myself inside, landing on a plush rug. The room smelled of old books, lemon polish, and faintly, of cigar smoke. A large walnut desk dominated the space. Family photos smiled from the shelves, the Millers at Disneyland, building a snowman, on a beach. Josh had a gap-toothed grin. Emily was in a soccer uniform. My chest tightened. Focus. $5,000. In and out. I went to the desk. The top right drawer was locked. Panic flared, but Marshall had anticipated this. From my pocket, I withdrew the small lockpick set he'd also provided. My hands shook, but after a fumbling minute, the lock yielded with a satisfying click. Inside the drawer, among paper clips and spare pens, lay the silver drive. It was cool to the touch. I grabbed it, a surge of illicit triumph mixing with nauseating guilt. I was about to close the drawer when my eyes fell on a framed photo tucked inside. It was of Mr. Miller, a man with kind eyes and a graying beard, standing with his arm around a younger man I recognized from the news. The younger man was a city councilman, currently at the center of a major corruption scandal. A cold understanding began to dawn. This wasn't about a disgruntled associate. This was blackmail, evidence, and I was now an accomplice to something far bigger than a simple theft. Suddenly, headlights swept across the room. Tires crunched on gravel. The play shouldn't be over for another hour. I stumbled to the window and saw the family minivan pulling into the driveway. The plan was shattered. Josh must have gotten sick, or the play was cancelled. It didn't matter. They were home. Frozen, I watched Mrs. Miller get out, helping a sleepy-looking Josh. Emily followed, still in a pioneer costume from the play. They were laughing, talking about something. They moved toward the front door. I was trapped. The front door lock clicked. I heard cheerful voices in the foyer. Go on up, get your pajamas on, Mrs. Miller said. I'll get some ginger ale for your stomach, champ. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Other footsteps moved toward the kitchen. The study was off the living room. To get back to the window, I'd have to cross an open space. My heart hammered so violently I thought it would give me away. I ducked behind the heavy floor-length curtains by the desk, clutching the drive so hard its edges dug into my palm. The living room light flicked on. I heard Mrs. Miller sigh, then the sound of her picking up toys. She was mere feet from me, separated by fabric. Then, Mr. Miller's voice, tense and low, from the hallway. Honey, have you been in my study? No. Why? The door's ajar. I always keep it closed. A pause. Maybe one of the kids. They know the rule. His footsteps approached the study door. The knob turned. The light switched on, blazing through the thin curtain. I held my breath, praying to become invisible. I heard him walk to the desk. A sharp intake of breath. The drawer, it's been picked. His voice was a strained whisper. The drive is gone. What? Who would? Mrs. Miller's voice was in the room now, laced with fear. Cole, Mr. Miller hissed. It has to be. He's cutting me loose, making sure I have no insurance. He sounded devastated, defeated. He's got it all now. He can bury me. We have to call the police, David, and tell them what? That the evidence I was hiding to save my own skin was stolen? I'm finished. Behind the curtain, my world tilted. Marshall Cole wasn't some middleman. He was the client. And Mr. Miller wasn't an innocent mark. He was a corrupt man being blackmailed by someone worse. But he was also a father who read bedtime stories, a husband who worried. The moral lines, already blurry, dissolved into a grey murk. Just then, my burner phone vibrated in my pocket. A seismic shudder in the dead silence. What was that? Mrs. Miller whispered, terror sharp in her voice. I was made. There was no choice. As Mr. Miller strode toward the curtain, I stepped out, hands raised. The drive was visible in my left hand. They both recoiled, Mrs. Miller gasping and grabbing a letter opener from the desk. I'm not here to hurt anyone, I said, my voice trembling. I was just hired to get this. I held up the drive. Who are you? Mr. Miller demanded, his face pale. My name is Liam. Marshall Cole hired me. He said it was property taken from him. I was betraying Marshall, but the Miller's palpable fear, the crying child I could now hear upstairs, made the decision for me. He told me you'd be gone. He knew your kids' names. Mr. Miller sank into his chair, looking every year of his age. He's tying up loose ends. This drive, it doesn't just implicate me. It implicates him too. But he has other copies. He has everything. Taking this just puts me completely at his mercy. An idea, desperate and probably stupid, formed in my panic-scrambled brain. What if he didn't get it? I said slowly. What if the burglar he hired got spooked and left it behind? You could still have your insurance. And I could still get paid. They both stared at me. Why would you do that? Mrs. Miller asked, suspicion narrowing her eyes. Because I really needed the money, I said, the simple, shameful truth hanging in the air. But I didn't sign up for destroying a family. And because if he thinks I have it, he'll come for me too. I looked at Mr. Miller. You give me something that looks like the drive. I give him that. He thinks he's won. You keep the real one. Get your affairs in order. Maybe go to the authorities on your own terms. And I walk away with enough to survive. It was a messy, risky deal. But in the chaos, it was the only thread of leverage we had. After a long, tense minute, Mr. Miller nodded. He rummaged in a cabinet and produced an old, identical-looking silver drive. Blank, he said. From an old presentation. We made the exchange, the real drive passing back to him, the fake now warm in my hand. I texted Marshall from the burner phone. Have it. Backyard. Now. You should go, Mr. Miller said, his voice heavy. And thank you. I didn't deserve thanks. I slipped out the study window just as a shadow detached itself from the trees at the back of the property. Marshall approached, his expression unreadable in the gloom. He held out his hand. I placed the fake drive in his palm. Smooth? He asked, his eyes searching my face. Smooth, I lied. They never knew I was there. He smiled, a thin, cold curve of the lips. He handed me a thick envelope. I didn't count it. The weight was right. The phone, he said. I gave it to him. He pocketed both items. We never met, Liam. Enjoy your reset. He melted back into the darkness. I stood in the shadow of the Miller house, the envelope of cash feeling like a brick of condensed shame and relief. I had the money. I had my reset. But I also had the crushing knowledge of what I'd almost done, and the terrifying uncertainty of what would happen when Marshall discovered the drive was blank. I walked away from Willow Lane, the suburban street now feeling like a landscape of moral quicksand. The rain had stopped.